Good day, everybody. We're going to talk about aliens today. Aliens, me people. They come in all shapes and sizes. Some are scaly, some are voluptuous, others have tentacles, and many of them are complete and utter assholes. And how do I know this? What makes me think that aliens exist? I know they exist. They're real. Oh, I can see them in my sleep. I've been abducted. That's all. Joking aside, though, the Fermi's paradox. I absolutely despise it. It's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard in my goddamn entire life. Like, huh? Blasphemy! My God, that's against science! The Fermi paradox is real! We don't know if there's aliens out there! We don't know if they are no aliens out there! Like, you're right! We don't know. So why assume that there isn't or that there is? We could be the first species in the entire universe. But I'm going to tell you right now, that's dumb. That's the wrong way of thinking. What is it, you insult to society? I know. You know I love you. I know I love you. We all know. And as I was saying, aliens, they do exist. I haven't seen them, you know, but just like microbes, because you don't see something doesn't mean it's not there. Just like atoms and just like bacteria, atoms, viruses, you name it. Because you don't see it doesn't mean they're not there. The same with, you know, if you can't hear it doesn't mean it's not there. You know, it's the old saying, if a tree falls in the woods, you know, does it make a sound? The answer is yes, it does make a sound. You know, but if you want to get overly technical about it, you know, retardedly so, pointlessly so, a tree doesn't make a sound. It just makes, you know, the air goes vibrating, and as long as there's nothing there to perceive, you know, those air vibrations, then no, it doesn't make a sound. Nothing makes sound. You know, if you want to get extremely technical, because sound is, you know, perception. But as we all know, sound is, you know, a wave that is created when, like, things go doing. Anywho, besides the point, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? The answer is yes. It does make a sound. You're just not there to hear the sound that is being made. So, and the thing is, trees fall in the forest all the damn time. So the question is, back to the Fermi's paradox: is there aliens? If so, why haven't we found them? You know, why haven't they found us? Two good questions. But the dumbest thing is, you know, that I've ever can imagine is the idea that we're going to find them. You're not going to find them unless they're next door to you or right on top of your ass. You're not going to find them. And even if they're right on top of you, they probably have stealth technology better than our own, capable of making it seem like, you know, they're a little water droplet, you know, moving at Mach 5. There is no way of detecting their asses. We don't have any modern day technology to properly detect them. And when we do detect them, it's probably because they want to be detected. Or probably because, ah, shit! Damn! You're not the only one hungry. Anyway, the reason why, you know, we can detect some of their alien craft and not others is probably because they're stealth tech. You know, like the craft that has being detected is not their stealth craft. Probably it's their scientific vessels. Because let's think, if aliens do exist, and there's a high probability of them existing, whether if you like it or not, then you know, then the ones that would be coming here would be one of three people, three types of individuals, that would come to visit Earth specifically, and none of them will be military. None, not a single one. Diplomatic vessels, yes. You know, scientific vessels, most definitely. And many, alien encounters, if they're real or believable, revolves around scientific experiments. And number three, which probably explains a random redneck seeing aliens wandering up their door or driveway, is tourists. You know, and the idea that aliens don't have, the concept of diplomats or scientists or civilians just being ignorant as all hell and back. The idea that aliens don't have any of these is just outright stupid. So, if aliens are coming here, none of them will ever be military because there would be no point in conquering Earth. For the simple factor that as soon as they start conquering Earth, we're going to start releasing the most powerful weapon against them because, you know, we know that, you know, if they're too advanced for our basic technology, we're just going to try and nuke their asses right off the bat. They know this, we know this. Nuke is on the is on the table when, you know, encountering a alien invasion. I'm going to tell you right now, why invade Earth? What would be the point of invading Earth if they could colonize and terraform Mars? If they have the technology to travel faster than light, right? They have the ability to travel faster than light. They have the ability to terraform. If they have the ability to terraform, why do they need a already habitable world if they can make one habitable by force? On top of that, you know, another reason why we haven't, like, not another reason, like one of the reasons why we haven't detected their haplobutts, butts, like, oh, well, the reason why we haven't detected any is because they don't exist. Like, wrong. If, all right, let's say there's a solar system 2 or 3 light years away from our own, right? All right, 2 or 3 light years away from our own. And they have a world, there's a world in that solar system that's in the Goldilocks zone and so on and so forth. This world had, like developed at the same time as us. You know, this world is basically roughly about 5 billion years old as our own, has life. There's life on it and everything. But why haven't we detected this life yet? We can detect the gases of that world and make assumptions that there's life on there. That's all we can do. We cannot detect life on it because they're probably not advanced enough for us to find out whether or not if there's anything there. You know, you can't hear radio waves if there's no radio waves being produced. All right? You can't find a world with radio signals on it if that world isn't producing any. Does that mean that there's no life on that world? No, it does not mean that there's no life on it. Because although we're in our computer age, there's like that's the thing. That's the developed world on Earth. You gotta understand, there's still tribes out there that's still living in the Stone Age. Uncontacted tribes on Earth right now that's still living in a Stone Age. If there's life out there, then their world probably doesn't have the ability to create fire. So they're not going to advance beyond the Stone Age because they're going to be stuck in it. because you need fire to create, and bend metal. You need fire to create more advanced tools. You can't create glass without fire. You can't create spears or, industrial machinery or even radio tech without fire. The gift of gods, put it simply. You can't do any of that if your world doesn't have enough oxygen, like oxygen to fuel ratio. If there's nothing that can be burned on that world, like all of the plant matter and coal and whatnot doesn't exist on that world, the same way that our does, like, the same way that our plants and, like our world has very flammable plants. Theirs may not. Their plants may not be as flammable as ours. You know, then you also have the factor that, let's say it's not the plants that's the problem, but the atmosphere. Let's say there's no oxygen or not enough oxygen on that world to produce a proper flame. Like, how can that be? Simple. Why should every world have the same chemistry as Earth? They don't. In fact, Saturn's moon, Titan, a methane rich world, you know, has little to no oxygen. It has an atmosphere, it has water, it has land, it has all of the conditions it needs for methane based life forms to exist there with very slow metabolisms, slow compared to Earth based life. So, with that said, you know, with that said, any life out there has a real possibility of being stuck in a stone age. And let's say they're not. Let's say they're hyper advanced, but this hyper advanced civilization is, you know, equally advanced as us or 1,000 years ahead of us. Let's say they're on the other side of the galaxy. They're like about 7 billion years, 7 billion years, like 7 billion light years away from Earth. You know, who's to say that a civilization 7 billion light years away from Earth, you know, like if they were to look in our direction with their radio telescopes and their regular telescopes, and they're advanced enough to see Earth from where they're at 7 billion light years away, they're not going to see modern day Earth. They're going to see what Earth looked like 7 billion years ago. And they're going to think to themselves that they are alone because they can't find any life on Earth because there is no Earth 7 billion years ago. Seven, like, oh, but, that shouldn't matter. That we should be done found by aliens. Well, like I said, if any aliens find us, is the equivalent of that European idiot that goes to an uncontacted, you know, newly discovered tribe, a European idiot trying to, go there and find out, what in God's star nation makes them tick. And they're going to get their asses either killed, captured, or, you know, catch some form of disease or spread some form of disease there. And once they get back home, they're going to be prosecuted, you know, because it's dangerous. That's another thing. You know, if there's aliens out there, they're not used to our biology, and our biology ain't used to theirs. So if one does come here, that's going, and then leave Earth, they're going to be carrying a plague with them, from wherever they came from, and they're going to be taking a plague from here to wherever they're going. And then the next thing you know, if they ain't sterilized in between now and then, they're going to release Black Death on a world that ain't ready for Black Death. And that world is going to experience that, extinction level event because its biology can't cope. And that's another thing. And this is where the concept of death worlds should more or less come into play. The thing is that if you ever read the HFY stories on Reddit about the concept of death worlds. Well, I like the idea because it would also be another explanation why hyper advanced civilizations hasn't found life on Earth, because any life that existed 1 million years ago and is still roaming the galaxy in today's time. Well, the thing is about them is that they you know that civilization, right? They would exist on worlds that would have less mass and therefore less gravity than that of Earth. You know, so a civilization like that, they would find Earth uninhabitable by their standards, because they would consider it to be too full of too many things that could kill them, and they wouldn't even bother. It's one of those, you know, if life exists out there in the galaxy, they've already found us. You know, they just have no reason to visit us. And if they do, and if any of them does visit us, then it's either for scientific, tourism, or diplomatic reasons. None of them military, because we're something to keep an eye on. We're not a threat, not yet, to them. You know, and they have no reason to invade us. Because if they did had a reason to invade us beyond, there's life on this planet that we're systematically making extinct right now. I mean, there's no resources for them to gather. We done used up damn near 80 something percent of our resources, if not more or less of it. We've done used up a decent amount of our own resources on Earth. So it's not going to be resources for the reason why they invade us. You know, it's not going because of the precious thing called life on Earth. Because here's the thing: we've done figured out that life on Earth is extremely resilient, from bacteria to single cells to even individual organisms. So it's safe to say that there's probably life on Mars, Titan, hell, probably even in Venus, therefore making life probably so abundant throughout the entire galaxy where they have no point in conquering Earth in regards to that. And even then, there's enough barren rocks out there where they don't need Earth to you know do all of that. Now we're going to go on to another pet peeve, being like just besides the invasion pet peeve, because that's the thing. There's enough barren. Before I continue, like, all right, there's enough barren rocks, right, in the galaxy alone. Enough solar systems, unclaimed systems, and whatnot in the galaxy alone that you know that is suitable for colonization and terraforming. So any civilization that does pop up would inevitably go and would prefer these unclaimed territories rather than already claimed ones. So, because it would be less of a hassle. If there were to be any war in between Earth and any civilization out there, it's because we pissed them off. Not because, they want something from us. It's because we pissed them off. The same way that, if China and the United States went to war, it's not because, you know, China wants something from the United States or the United States wants something from China. It's because we pissed each other off to a point where we decided to go to war. You know, being the only reason why we would go to war nowadays, anyways. That's the only reason why people are going to war nowadays, period. Now, there is one thing that really pisses me off as a pet peeve, and the concept, and that being the concept of Dyson spheres. Like, Dyson spheres, right? This retarded concept. Like, Dyson spheres ain't retarded. Dyson swarms ain't stupid. Like, they are. they are a waste of time, resources, and energy to build. These mega structures where you build a giant fucking laser to move your entire solar system or a giant fucking sphere around your home star is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. Like, oh, but it's not dumb. Many people would point out it's not dumb. It's not. I'm like, it's stupid. Like, oh, but the idea is to harvest the entire energy of your sun. Okay, you've developed like your entire economy, right? Your entire political system, your entire species. You have devoted your entire species, all of your resources, everything to building this massive fucking structure to harness all of the electricity of your like to harness all of the available photons that your star puts out so you can produce a shitload of energy. Now what? You've done wasted all of your resources on surrounding your star with a giant shell. A shell designed, pretty much built out of fucking solar panels. You've done this. Now what? You no longer have any proper resources to go and expand your empire galactically. Don't say you do, because you don't. Unless you're making your ships out of bioplastics. You know, unless you have a extreme recycling plan, that ain't happening. And if there's one thing I've learned about being human, being a sapient, intelligent species on Earth, diverting your having your entire species on board with the entire idea of building this mega project, it's not doable. Because any species that develops into a civilization is going to be develop into a spacefaring civilization. They're going to be competitive, all right, to the bone. It's the only way to advance as a civilization. It's the only way to advance as a species, to be competitive. The more competitive you are, more successful you are, and more adaptive you are, more likely your civilization would inevitably reach the stars and would inevitably colonize your entire system. But even then, let's say we were to colonize Mars and the moon and so on. One day those worlds are going to get tired of Earth's shit and declare independence. Earth would not like that and would declare war on Mars and X, Y, and Z, you know, for more or less neglecting Earth. Basically, the same reason why Britain declared war on the 13 colonies, basically, after the 7 Years' War. Same damn shit, different era. So, yeah. With that said, any alien civilization that does exist, they will have their own tribes. They will have their own nations. They will not be united, and any forethought on that idea is retarded. So, and that's already one kink in your Dyson Sphere plan or your Dyson Swarm plan. But once again, you built this massive thing. What's next? Conquering the galaxy when you don't have any resources to use to do so? Ain't happening. On top of that, it would take you thousands of years going at 1% light speed just to get to a solar system that is 100 light years away. When that time could be a lot more, when all that time and resources could be a lot more easier spent if you're colonizing a star next door, you know, 2 or 3 light years away, that's doable. 4 or 5 light years away, that's doable. Colonizing space is doable, you know, but ugh, but at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, these, type 1, type 2, and type 3 civilizations, in my book, are stupid. All right. The reason why we haven't found any type 2, type 3 civilizations is because they don't exist. Megastructures, you know, big enough to encompass solar systems don't exist, nor should they. And besides the political aspect and resorting your entire solar system's worth of resources to building a pointless Death Star, you know, you also got red giants. Stars explode, they expand and they explode. So on top of that, well, with that said, you're pretty much dooming your entire Dyson swarm or your Dyson sphere from the get go by building it around a star. And any civilization that's smart knows this. Then you also have, you know, gravity. Building a Dyson sphere or Dyson swarm won't work because of gravity. Because stars explode. So, with that said, you're not going to find any civilization building these retarded constructs. End of story. Hmm. But what you will find is their activity. That being opening up wormholes and having them collapse. Because the thing is about wormholes is that hypothetically, if they exist, and if you can create one, then you should be able to detect it. The question is, what method are they using to create wormholes? Because as sci-fi shows, there's more than one method of traveling through space, and you know, and there's more than one method of trying to create a wormhole. In my book, one of the more plausible ways of creating a wormhole is creating black holes and forcing them to orbit around your ship. And you try to fly straight through the center of the entire orbiting scenario. Now, before anyone say, "Oh, well, that's impossible, that's retarded and whatnot," like, it is dangerous. Don't get me wrong, quite possibly stupid. But here's the thing, you know, we have the technology to create black holes. If memory serves correctly, they created what amounts to be a black hole on the space station at one time or another, using basically a vacuum chamber, a few atoms, some electromagnets, and some lasers. High power lasers and high power magnets. And the idea was to get the atoms to hold still long enough, you know, like to get what amounts to be absolute zero. And what they saw is all of the atoms unraveled, merged into a singular unit, and basically became a singularity, which is what's considered to be a black hole. If we're able to do that, then we're able to use the same piece of technology, wrap our ship around it, you know, and create a nice little force field around our ship designed to protect us from, well, the collapsing wormhole. It's just a thought. We could also use the technology as a way to, create warp speed. Also a thought. So, but I'm running out of things to say, so I'm going to try and wrap it up. But yeah, at the end of the day, when it comes to aliens in the Fermi's paradox. There is aliens out there. There's probably aliens visiting Earth right now. But at the end of the day, the reason why we haven't found them yet is several reasons. There is no one reason. There is no big bad killing off civilizations. And we're not the first. And any civilization that is out there, they either don't care that we exist, or they do, and they're watching us. And the only people that is interested in us is politicians, scientists, and the average tourist. That's it. The rich man tourist, that is, but still. Those are the only people that would ever give a fuck about us. And even then, the politicians don't care too much, and their civilians don't really care all that much. The only ones that gives a fuck out of all of the types of people out there that would care about visiting Earth would be aliens. I'm not, would be scientists, excuse me. Would be scientists and not like scientists would be the most interested. Not miners, not construction workers, not necessarily politicians, not tourists, not the military. The military would be interested in, popping probes here and there, and that's it. So, if there's any aliens out there, we don't have to worry about them. And they're not worried about us.